Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Higher Moment Mastermind. I'm Shira Lodzar, happy to be your co-host today, along with my colleagues Vern and Alki, and we are here to happy to answer all your job search questions from start to finish, whatever's on your heart and mind. So, Michael, Brian, Matthew, who would like to kick us off with a question? Whatever the topic, we are happy to address it.
I guess I can just say welcome, everyone. I haven't attended for a bit. Still keeping busy on the job search and waiting for the callbacks for round 2 or round 3, depending on the company. Also been speaking with another company about it might be a part-time consulting opportunity. So we're supposed to meet face-to-face in a few weeks. So I don't have any questions. I just thought I would stay plugged in and hear what's going on with everyone.
Anything you want to report in terms of that process you're in, and any interesting anecdotes to share? Because we're also about, sharing experiences too.
I think my only concern is, I'm sure everybody has, when someone says they'll get back to you by X day, like last Monday type thing, and then they don't.
Right.
And then you try to reach out to them, hey, just trying to get an update.
Right.
Being aware is a double-edged sword that I know the folks are very busy and they can't return each and every phone call like mine.
Right.
On the other hand, it's just, I want them to know that I'm still engaged and still out here.
So here's what you remember that old expression that nobody likes: don't call us, we'll call you. So here's the thing. I always talk about packing your patience when it comes to the follow-up process. Here's what you should know. Michael, remember that also when you were a hiring manager, just walk a mile and remember what that was like. Most job seekers forget what it was like to be a hiring manager when they're in job search. So I'm just reminding you. Employers, whether it's the hiring manager, the HR person, or the recruiter, their assumption, rightly or wrongly, is that the candidate is waiting by the phone for them. They assume you are still interested in here unless they hear otherwise. Literally, that's how they're thinking, okay? So from their perspective, you're just one candidate in the mix. They're doing their thing, making their decisions. And when they're ready, they'll go, okay, Michael, you're our guy. Now, of course, they hope you're still available. They kind of assume it. So you're welcome if it's been a while and you want to just touch base and say, hey, just letting you know I'm still interested and available. That's fine, but not necessarily for the purpose of, hey, what's an update? Because there's nothing necessarily to report. If there was, they would be reaching out, right? If there was something to say, they would be saying it. Now, that said, if something happens on your end, meaning let's say that the job that you're looking for, or the job that you're applying for, that's your first choice, and you have another organization that is about to extend you an offer, and you want to let your first choice know, hey, I'm receiving an offer. I just want you to know you're my first choice. Can I get an update? That is a different story. And then what will happen is one of two things. Either if you are their top choice also, but they're just sort of dragging their heels because life's happening, that'll light a fire under them. It absolutely will. And then they'll go, wait, Michael, wait, don't go anywhere. Don't make any decisions without us. And they'll like start, getting new interviews for you. They're going to get all a little bit frenetic. But if you are not their first choice, they'll be very kind and they'll say, oh, Michael, thank you for letting us know. We can't hold you back. You have to make the decision that you need to make. And that will let you know definitively whether you're actually somebody that they're strongly considering. But other than that, in terms of the touch base, to just touch base and say, what's the update? If they had an update, they'd let you know.
And for Brian and Matthew's benefit, I know I've used this example. Here's another dynamic that creates that same situation, Michael. In all the years that I was in HR and responsible for recruiting, I would be pushing hiring managers. I'd give them here are the 5 best resumes. Get back to me so we can get back to the candidates, and let them know. And then like 2 days would go by, then 3 days would go by, and then a week would go by. And I'd, reach out, see him in the hallways and email him, leave him a message. Hey, Dick, come on, we need to move this process along. Well, guess what? Dick's busy. He's the hiring manager. He's got a million other things going on in his life.
Not top priority for him.
And when they come to me as a hiring manager and say, this is really important, I need to hire this person ASAP.
Right.
and then they drag their feet. It
Crickets.
used to drive me crazy. Okay. So that's just another, like I said, situation in this whole recruiting process that I know drives, candidates crazy, because I was a candidate several times in my career. So I know what you're saying about, people not getting back to you and you feel like you're in this black hole, but that's just the way it is. So
I call it a seed planting exercise. You're a farmer, right?
yeah.
Plant lots of seeds. Some are going to pop, some are not. Birds, wind, rain, right? And you just keep planting seeds. And if
Yeah.
one of them pops, they'll let you know. And if you're available, look, sometimes they drag their heels and they shouldn't. And they have to learn a lesson that they can't take their time, right? The candidates also have opportunities, and employers will learn that lesson sometimes. Candidates, we can't just assume, right, that if we drag our heels that the candidates are going to be available. So now if you're working with a third party recruiter, that's a little different because it's in their best interest to keep the process moving forward. Plus it is the recruiter's full-time job to keep the process moving forward. That's different. But if the employer is doing it on their own, and especially if there is no recruiter, either external or internal recruiter, if it's just an HR person, or if it's such a small organization that they don't even have an HR person and it's just the executive director or the hiring manager, typically that is a much longer process because, to Vern's point, they got other things on their plate. And besides which, they're not professional recruiters. So they don't know how to manage a candidate's expectations and nurture the candidate relationship. They're just sort of doing their job and hoping that it's all going to work out. So hopefully that's helpful for everybody, because we get that topic here periodically.
So Brian and Matthews, one of the ways that Elke and Shira and I can help you the most is to learn a little bit, at least a little bit, about who you are and what kind of skills and expertise you have and what kind of role you're looking for.
Yep. And Mark as
who
well.
knows, we might be able to connect you to somebody. Yeah. So, but we can't do that unless we
know.
hear from you a little bit. Okay.
So why don't we go around there? Let's do Brian, then Matthew, and then Mark just joined us as well. Just a little bit about what kind of job you're looking for and how we can help.
Yeah, I'll jump in. So I most recently, I've been in nonprofit, intentionally in nonprofit for about 15 years. Before that, I was a teacher, pre-MBA, then MBA, for-profit for a while. I've been the chief operating officer of National Association for the last 8 years. My supervisions included finance, HR, IT, project management, and risk management. I'm looking, and that organization was about a $10 million organization. I'm looking for a similar role at an organization same size to about $10 to $30 million in revenue. I spent the last year with a new executive director, and the year before that as interim executive director. Unless the organization is truly aligned with my passion, I'm not interested in an executive director role. I know what my lane is, and I know what I'm good at. I made this change because I wasn't a great fit with the new executive director. I knew that from her hire, but I was really committed to making sure that her transition was positive. That was a responsibility that I felt strongly about. But now here I am. I'm currently doing a little bit of project work for one of the consultants that we had hired recently, doing operational consulting as part of a more holistic strategic planning process. And I'm trying to figure out whether I've done consulting in the past on my own, which I didn't find sustainable. I'm trying to figure out whether consulting with a group, with a partnership, is something that I might really enjoy. And I also have the gnawing feeling that I belong inside of an organization. But I'm pursuing both paths to really test it out. And if I'm thinking of questions, in the last 5-6 weeks, I've really started to re-engage my network. Although I've been passively looking for the past year. But it's my question is tips to uncover those jobs that aren't posted but are being filled.
Yeah, but what we call the hidden job market.
In my job market.
It's
Yeah.
over 80% of jobs are hidden.
Yeah.
Literally.
And
You know, the word that we always use, network, network. But it's not just any old kind of networking, right? In fact, Vern and I both have a whole presentation on this. In fact, that literally Vern's whole business model is around networking. But we both have concepts around this, but just in short, and happy, Vern, for you to chime in too, is you know, it is about relationships, but there are different kinds of relationships that you have, both ones that are, I'll say, relational, right, in terms of the closeness that you have to somebody, but also professionally, how you engage with them, right? So Captain Obvious here, being in the association world that you are, obviously your association colleagues, right, are going to have, you know, probably more opportunities than your next door neighbor, right? Like we know that. But it really is a good thing to keep in mind when you think about who is most likely to know about the right opportunities for you. So it's not a random networking thing, right? There's people who know you, like you, trust you. There's a relational side for sure. And frankly, your next door neighbor, if you're really good friends with them, might want to help you, and that's fine. And you never know. But from a professional perspective, you know, obviously you and your, you know, being that you're a number two, right? Obviously other number twos and then and number ones are typically the ones that are going to be hearing about those. And again, you might instinctively know this, but being intentional around networking with those people, starting with the number ones and number twos who relationally are closer to you, and letting those people pass you on to their colleagues and so on. It's a really good way to sort of, you know, expand out, right? Kind of go with the core, the people who want to champion you, and then the people who they can refer you and so on. That's just a very quick kind of tip, but that's really where the hidden job market comes in, because it's the ones like, hey, you got to talk to my friend Brian, like, right? And then it's not even posted anywhere. It's not an ASAE. It's not on LinkedIn. It's just somebody doing a search, and they want to kind of keep it within their referral network. So that's just my quick, you know, concept. Vern and then Alki, you want to share anything?
Yeah, the first two job searches I didn't know how to network, and they were really, really difficult. When I actually learned the skills and behaviors you really need to network, my last three jobs in my career came to me from my network, and they were hidden job market. There was a hidden job market. I didn't even know about these opportunities. So the power of the relationships you have with people, reaching out to them, again, having your story prepared. Okay, let them know, you know, a little. You gave us a little bit of a background. You've got to be prepared to tell them, you know, what you're looking for, and how they might be able to help you. And always ask in any of those networking conversations, is there anyone in your network that you think you could introduce me to? Because that's kind of a warm introduction. That's not a cold call. You know, the person that, you know, you're talking to knows this other person, and they'll reach out and say, hey, Bob, would you mind talking to Brian? And Bob's most likely going to say, sure, I'm happy to, because of the relation Bob has with your first contact. So the more of those conversations you have, the greater likelihood you're going to uncover, you know, the hidden job market. That's the only way it happens. So it, and sometimes it's luck. I mean, you might just bump into somebody and meet them for the first time, and they're telling you about a job. So can't emphasize that enough. Think of it, and this is a difficult thing for a lot of job seekers when you're in those conversations. The fundamental principle of Contacts Count is that networking conversations should be about teaching and giving. So certainly, as a job seeker, you want to be teaching as people as much as you can about who you are, what you're good at, what you're looking for. And the difficulty with a lot of job seekers, and Sharon, I've, you know, coached a lot of people in the job search process. Well, what can I give back to them? I can't, you know, I don't know what to give back to them. and you may not be able to give back to them in the moment. But if there is something in the conversation that you think about and maybe question them and find out a little bit about what they are, most people who do that, when at the end of the conversation, when you say, let me know if there's anything I can do to help you. Well, I will. Thanks so much for the offer, Brian. But there's never, they're saying that out of the generosity of their heart, probably. But if you can find something as simple as you see an article that's related to their function, their industry, email them saying, hey, I saw this article. Would you be interested in? Oh yeah, thank you. Even little gives like that show your appreciation for the other person. So.
And making impromptu connections. Let's say you meet somebody that you think would be helpful for them. They never even asked you. They never even mentioned a need, but you're in the course of your own network. And you're like, wait a second. I think these two people should meet. There could be some synergy. Yeah. Proactively make the intro.
Yeah. So those are the types of gives that let other people know that you're just a straight shooter and you're trying to find your next job and you're willing to help others too as you go through your job search.
They make sure that your networking is consistent. Yeah. Right? Not a random thing. Like make sure it's a regular part of your life, both Zoom and these days in person, right? We're getting back out there. There's nothing like in person. We all know that. And there are more networking groups now that are teeing up again, face to face. That helpful, Brian?
Yeah. Thank you.
Elke, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I was going to say, as you straddle the two different directions, that consulting is probably a breath of fresh air from what you were doing before. Seeing what you can teach and give that way, you probably bumping into people doing that as well. It's also probably giving you some perspective. I'm sure it'll lead to some conversations and some connections. This might be a bit more rhetorical, but yeah, I'm a bit curious too about the passive job search that you started, because sometimes there are jobs that are posted, but at the end of the day, finding that fit at this point for you, the percentages might go down. But yeah, I think this time of year too, when change is on the brain for a lot of organizations, as they turn the page and turn the corner, I think there's a lot of board members who know some changes might be upcoming. When Vern and Shira talk about networking, I think stumbling into some board members, even LinkedIn, looking to see who's on the board of XYZ. Sometimes they hear things from their other friends who are board members elsewhere who are like, yeah, there's a couple of opportunities that are coming up. Sometimes they're asked as board members to make a switch from board member to assuming position. So I think the networking that they talked about is on point, and it's just being real strategic and diverse and creative with those opportunities. I'm sure you have a network at the level that you've been at for years. So I think it's just, twisting that ball and that sphere in different directions to look through it to say, you know what, I worked with him in this capacity before, but never thought about X, Y, Z. So I think you're going about it the right way.
Excellent. And to that point, that is some of what I've been doing locally especially, where I was, our board was a national board, but we had more local committees. And of course, the organization that I was at before, I've stayed in touch with board members there. I actually just ran into a former board member voting yesterday, and he immediately called me afterwards and introduced me to a new person.
Yep.
So yeah, I gravitate towards that strategy, and I also, because my organization was the organization I just left was national, and generally speaking, our board members, if not our foundation board members, but our association board members were national. There's less kind of connection to other organizations that I'm kind of proximal to, like in a gravitational sense. Do you have thoughts on that, where maybe the 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 board or the people that I've kind of associated with are more remote in this kind of shifting time.
Can you be a little more specific? What
Yeah,
are you
I
trying
mean,
to?
remote geographically, or
Yeah, remote geographically, where and kind of remote more I guess the word would be distant, right?
I mean, the relationship is not as strong.
So I'll give the example. Before being at EDTA, I was the chief operating officer of our local JCC, Jewish Community Center. And um, so that organization, the board members, the committee members were truly local. But also the connection was not just Jewish life, it was life. And so one of the board members, one of the folks that I've been speaking to more recently, I know him from actually both the Jewish communal work that I did, and he also served on a committee at the association I just left, kind of just by chance. But most of the people that I became close with as board members at my association, they're theater teachers and they're all over the country. And some of them are kind of active on a national level, but most of them are just local theater teachers who are elected to this board that served our organization. So they're remote from a distance perspective, but they're also remote in terms of like connection to the professional life that I lead.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like, Brian, and the more remote the relationship is and the less they're actually involved in the world that you work in. Yeah, I mean, you only have so much time in the day. So focus on those connections that are much closer to you, that you have a stronger relationship. It may be that at some point somebody says, well, reach out to this person, and it's one of these people that's more distant, and so forth and so on. Reach out to them, and who knows, sometimes you get surprised. You think this person could help, all of a sudden they are able to help you, but focus your time and energy on those ones that are really close to you.
And something else I'll offer, and I share this just with everybody on this call, right, from a networking perspective. One of the ways to effectively network is to network with people who are sectorally aligned with you. And Brian, that's actually kind of to your point. So I was looking at your LinkedIn profile, and you have it's an interesting kind of thing. And I think a lot of people have these kinds of, you shift here and then you shift there, right? So in your particular case, yeah, you've had well, let me back up. Let me give a concept first. So the concept that I use is what I call lane versus community. Lane versus community. Your lane is what you do. It's your profession, it's your occupation. Your community is who you serve. Industry, mission, sector. They're two different things. And I intentionally split them up because most people sort of mush them together. They're not. They're very separate. So in your case, you have an ops lane, right? You're doing ops in various forms, but you've had different communities. Consulting, you've done local community, you've done the association, right? This and that. And so you're going to have different people from different communities will relate to you differently. And different people from different lanes that will relate. So you've got your ops people in your world who are kind of cross-sectoral, cross-community. They're like, well, here's an ops job, right? But then you've got community people who are like, oh, well, there's a job in the community that you just came from, right? Because people, it's a fish pond concept. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. There's affinity relationships. People are just kind of hang out together with people in the same lane, in the same community. So in your particular case, most recently you were working with an association. Well, it looks like it was your first association. Is that right? Well, I don't know if you know, the association world, it's a community. It's a big community. There's ASAE, there's all these things. I'm not sure if you have subscribed to CEO Update, the publication. Okay, like that, there's the whole sector there of people who are going to hear about opportunities within that community. So I offer this to everybody on this call because it's very, very helpful when you're thinking about community connections. And interestingly enough, Mr. Michael Lang here is in that same community. Now he's in a different lane. He's an association executive, but he's in the education space and also looking for number 1 jobs. Y'all should be connecting. Okay, right? Even though you're in different lanes, you swim with similar people sectorally. Does that make sense? So I think that I would just offer that as another way of narrowing your networking focus.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
So,
Suggest we continue to move on because we've got all these new people this week.
yeah, I know.
So we want to hear from all of you.
I led a little session last night with another job seeker group. So a lot of folks on this call are.
Okay, well, that's great. Okay.
Matthew, tell us a little bit about what you're up to.
Morning. Yeah, Matt Coley with the
Oh, we can't really hear you, Matthew. You're kind of garbled.
Oh, they hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was on the presentation last night, so that's how I heard about this. So I'm in Arlington. It's not this. And most of my background recently is project management and a combination of government contracting and commercial healthcare IT. So I've worked in implementations both in hospitals and then also in the government side for like the military health system and your VA. So that's, I guess I would call that the sector that I've worked in, or the lane. So mostly as a PM, just professionally, things I've done mostly have been trying to fix business processes, working across teams or putting teams together in terms of the things that I enjoy. I would say this might be a good topic for discussion, or the question I was going to bring up in terms of job search question, that I am looking at PM jobs at this point, but still working or trying hard to not necessarily make a lateral move for my next move. One of the things in GovCon that can happen is you can make a bunch of lateral moves from contract to contract and not necessarily grow in your career. So I am trying to take a long-term outlook on my next step, whether that moves towards like a director of a PM team or director of biz ops type role, something that would step up in responsibility, but that is challenging if that's not yet on your resume. So that's my my background and where I'm at in my job search, as well as maybe the challenge that I'm facing. I would like to hear your thoughts on.
Yeah, GovCon's its own little creature, right? It's very, it's one of the most transactional kinds of environments that you can be in, right? Because it's all about what does the government client want. And it's never usually about career growth because the company that's hiring you, the GovConner, right? That's not their focus. They're just like a really big temp agency kind of thing. So I wish I had some specific advice for you, but you know, other than to whatever extent when you're in your next job, that you can kind of, you know, see if there's opportunities internally to take on new projects and offer more value. But in terms of moving right from here to here and going up a level, I don't know. Alki, I'm not sure if you've played in the GovCon space and you have any advice for Matthew.
Only a little bit in the water. The water's kind of cold in the GovCon space. But not a lot of special expertise there. But what I heard was you said you're looking to take a step up from just PM to leadership, and you're looking to stay in GovCon.
I would be willing to move back to true commercial side work because I do have a lot of experience. I was in healthcare IT, so private sector or true private sector away from the government contracting would be appealing at this point as well.
Yeah, I know I've recruited a lot of PMs in a lot of different industries. Interestingly enough, director of PM is not a role that I've seen, but I've seen leaders over the groups that house the PMs and the project, whether it's engineering or whatever else. So yeah, that's interesting. Might be worth some dialogue to learn more offline, but definitely a need for your experience always. But where is the question?
And it would
So
seem to be in healthcare. There ought to be a lot of project management positions. Just go ahead, Sharon.
So I was going to say, are you in the, yeah, I know you said healthcare, but are you also, do you feel like you could also play in the technology side of, okay. So I have a fairly recent client who just got a C-suite role at a major IT GovCon firm, a named brand. If you'd like to send me a note offline, I'm happy to make an introduction. He just started, so I know he's a little in fire hose mode, but great guy, and may be able to have an informational interview with you. You never know. Maybe he's hiring. I don't know, but his name is Paul. So if you just want to write me a note, I'll put my email in the chat. Just say, want a connection to Paul, and I'll do my best.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I'll reach out. So
Sure.
thank you so much.
So let me make a point. By you hearing Shira last night and making the effort to come here, you now have an introduction, right? So that's how, I mean, the tagline for Contact Scouts is the power of human connection. So you're experiencing that, firsthand.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Sure. All right. Mark, do you want to share a little bit about your situation and how we can help you?
Yes, I'm an attorney. I have worked for in the financial services area, both for the government and the private sector, mostly regulatory and corporate work. I was last with the federal government, and I parted company with them under less than perfect circumstances. I unfortunately cannot return to the federal government, probably. So I'm seeking something in the private or nonprofit sector that would fit my skill set, which again is financial regulatory work. I've chartered banks, I've closed banks, and I've assisted them with activities of various sorts in between. So I've got a fairly broad background over 30 plus years. I've been having some trouble sustaining a job search. I've been at this off and on for about 2 years. And so I think that there are issues with my LinkedIn site, which I haven't ironed out. It's not complete, and it's been incomplete for 2 years roughly. Also, issues in terms of networking and how to go about it at this point. Again, I did not leave my last employment under friendly terms, and so that is perhaps hanging over me at this point. It's probably to some extent undermining my job search. I'm not sure whether you have any advice, because it's not a specific, it's not a very specific problem.
Mark, did you say that you're looking to transition to the nonprofit sector specifically?
Well, I would be willing to, a trade association, financial service.
Okay, sorry, you froze there for just a second. So one, just sort of a general piece of advice that I would that I offer. Remember, we were talking about the sort of community sectoral kind of a thing, and you've been an employer, right? You've hired people. Just if you put that hat back on for just a sec, you'll, I'm sure, appreciate that employers are risk averse, right? So they like to hire people who will sort of slide into home base, both the lane and the community. Okay. So to the extent that you are able to leverage the sectoral experience that you've had and stay within one of those sectors, you will increase your likelihood of landing. I mean, that's just kind of the way it is. Anytime people try to make a sectoral shift, I'm not saying it's impossible. People do it. It can take time. It can take a lot of intentionality, right? But it's risky for employers to shift, to have somebody shift sector, especially when it goes from for-profit to nonprofit, because it's a completely different mindset, a way of thinking, way of doing business, right? Not impossible, just challenging. So if landing employment is important to you on the sooner than later, you may want to consider, right, leveraging the experience that you've had and the relationships that you have. And even if it's not from the most recent sector, if you're having relational challenges, right, with what just happened, maybe it's the sector right prior to that, but basically leveraging the relationships, the people who know you, like you, trust you. That would be just something I'd offer.
Mark, have you, you said banking and regulatory at some point.
Yes.
Are you familiar with the American Bankers Association?
Oh, most certainly, yes.
Yeah. All right.
Yes.
All right. So,
Want to connect him to Jamie?
yeah, I was gonna, so I worked for my last corporate job was with the American Bankers Association. So I was the senior VP of HR.
Oh,
there
really?
5 or 6 years. And this is a story for everybody on the call. Jamie Ballou, who was on this call for probably
Fun.
6 months,
Mhm.
something like that. She landed at the American Bankers Association. Well, somewhat with our help and Shira's expertise, because she was one of those people that had multiple offers at the same time. And so, and it was her first choice was the American Bankers Association, and she got the offer from the second choice. And she did exactly what Shira said, call ABA and tell them, hey, I got an offer. You know, if you guys are serious. And they called her, and the next day she was in there for an interview. So, so Jamie, I'm sure would be happy to chat with you. And I don't know if there's any openings in
Absolutely.
a particular area at ABA right now, but it is a huge area within the American Bankers Association. There's also, I believe it's the
Yes, it
Community
is.
Bankers Association for a community bank.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah, those are
community bankers, yes.
two. It sounds like from your background, ideal targets. Now, whether they have opportunities or not, I don't know, but that would be a good place to start.
Yeah.
So, Mark, I'll put my my email in the chat and just reach out to me and I'll connect you to Jamie.
Thank you, Bert.
Yeah,
Thank you. I will do that.
yeah.
I just want to say that Jamie is wonderful.
Oh, you know Jamie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Oh, good. I look forward to meeting her.
she's
Yeah.
like
yeah.
one of the most lovely people I have met ever.
She's very giving.
Yeah.
Yeah, she,
Yeah.
back during her job
Okay.
search, that's all she did was she kept giving to people, like helping people. And
Yeah, she's been a big help to me as I've kind of launched Contact Scout. She's a believer in it and has connected me to people with possible opportunities. So she's just one of those really solid human beings in the world today. So
Okay. Thank you.
yeah.
all right, Patrick, do you want to share a little bit about where you're at and how we can help you?
Well, thank you very much. It was nice. Your presentation last night was very nice. I have a long history in corporate sales, sales management in the technology field. I worked many years, companies like Motorola. I've sold to probably close to half the Fortune 500 companies, C-suite executives at many over the years. And I kind of retrenched my career, got into acting, tried to make that work. That hasn't, I had some minor success and I'm now looking to kind of get back into things. I'm looking for a part-time position as a sales coach, trainer, mentor. I was approved. I'm a Accenture subcontractor. I got interviewed with Accenture and got approved as a subcontractor and was assigned to one of the big tech companies to do training and coaching and leadership kind of mentoring. And but that hasn't panned out. They cut all their budget for all of this stuff. I'm also currently employed by a division of the Small Business Administration, the Small Business Development Center, and I work on a part-time basis, coaching small businesses, sales leadership, management, business development. But that's a very low-paying position, and it's temporary, depending on the budget. They'll have to see if they have budget for me come January 1st. So I'm really looking for a part-time position where I can work with a sales team, maybe a fractional position in sales and management. Most of my career has been in technology. I've sold or managed sales teams to sell every piece of technology that's in existence today in one form or another. I mean, I sold the first generation internet. So that's kind of my story. My contacts are very old. I'm not 25, and I was one of those young guys that got promoted early. So most of my contacts are older than I am, and like I say, I've been out of it for a while with the acting and everything else. So that's it.
Are you focused on getting back in the fractional world? Specifically?
Yes. Yeah, I'd like to. My ideal position would be really to come into a company and work with a sales team or work with a sales manager, or and help them improve performance.
Sure.
That would be my ideal.
Given your own sales know-how, right? Obviously, you're the best person to sell on your own behalf. It's nice to kind of have that experience, right, in terms of your own BD for your own self. Do you feel comfortable in doing your own BD in terms of reaching out to CEOs of tech firms and
Yeah,
kind of hunting for your own fractional work?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing, and I've had some success. Like I said, I thought the Accenture thing was going to take off. That was just unfortunate that budgets got cut there. As I say, that's what I'm doing. But it would be, you explore all activities. Contacts count. So.
Right.
Yes, they do.
Are you're only looking for part-time at this point, correct?
Yes, I'm only looking for part-time. And that's really the issue. I mean, I've had a lot of full-time offers. If I was looking for full-time work, I would have been employed, 20 jobs by now. I've had offers for full-time positions. So, it's really to find a combination of the part-time is the big issue. And then you have to find someone that, wants to bring you in a capacity of an advisory kind of training. And it's not all that easy. And I was really hoping to get connected with a larger company, this time around. So anyway, that's why I'm here.
Okay. I've recruited a bag of things, but if I had to add up all the years over the last 7 to 9 years, probably 50 to 60% of recruitment that I've done has been sales. And it's interesting. You said you've gotten the full-time offers. I'm curious what titles, but listening to your background and knowing, how long you've done it and where you are at this point in the game, I know it probably would have to be a large company to be, hey, his role is training our team. Otherwise, I've seen this, as some other title with other duties, but they rely on you to do that training. Part-time, definitely don't see that. But I'm curious because I don't see part-time. What I've seen is, there's a season and they want to move the team to a different place, or they're changing their technology. And so everybody's going through trainings and they're tying in, how to meet goals while they're also instituting this new training system and some other things that they're doing. I haven't seen part-time, but I'm curious with some of those full-time opportunities, how those conversations have gone, or have you seen any flexibility that they might be willing to be flexible with schedule? Because it almost makes me want to ask, when you say part-time, how many hours is it an hours thing that you're trying not to commit to?
Yeah. Well, with my employment now, because I'm employed now part-time, is up to 20 hours a week. So that's what I'm doing there. The jobs that I've had offered, obviously sales jobs, I've had sales management positions offered to me. There's a number of sales training jobs that are available, and those are typically full-time positions where they want to bring you in as a sales trainer. I've had an offer to run somebody's company. Probably should have taken that one, but at the time acting, I thought I was close to being the spokesman for American Express. Which, by the way, I always loved American Express. So when I got into actors hate commercials, they're these the artistic people that are, they're not going to lower themselves to that. But I like commercials because I sold all my life. I said, wouldn't it be great to be the spokesman for American Express? And lo and behold, there I am in the hunt for this. And but anyway, that's just a fun story. So those are the kind of jobs that that I've had offered. I could go back to calling businesses, typically smaller companies, small to mid-size, and see if I could work with a team there. That's what I was doing for a while to pick up some extra money before I was acting. Anyway,
is the motivation for part-time to leave other time free for other things?
Partially, I'm not looking to take on I'm not looking for I'm looking for the right word. I don't want to be I'm not looking to get myself retrenched into being, a sales manager with a quota and all of that kind of stuff at this point in time. I've had a great deal of experience, and I'm really in a position where I want to relay that to people, as opposed to somebody that's trying to pound out the numbers. I like to see other people successful, and to be blunt, in business, even large corporations today, the amount of training, what I got when I started was incredible. I mean, the first job I had, I spent 10 weeks over a 3-year period in formal training in a college campus-like environment. Today, you get 2 days of sales training and they expect you to get out there and do something. I have a relative with a master's degree that just got a job in sales, 0 training, 0. They just sent him out there on his own.
Yep.
So, I go into an environment like that and I can very quickly improve performance. And I get a real enjoyment out of seeing people do better. And so that's kind of the role that I really want to play, versus the manager pounding out the numbers.
The advice, I was asking those questions because I don't see part-time for sales, but the proof in the pudding by the interviews that you're getting and the opportunities and the offers, everyone sees your value and your experience and what you've done. And to your point, nowadays, you gotta get on the phones or get out and beat the streets almost, day one, or even before the interview is over. Almost, I've seen in some situations. That I was asking those questions because I was curious. Part-time, likely not to see, doesn't mean it's impossible. A lot of people will see you as a consultant, but for what you're looking for, if you're not looking for full-time, my only advice probably would be to see if you can leverage the opportunities that you're getting full-time, to see if there's, who could be creative with giving you whatever you're looking for full-time, whether it's benefits or the money or something else, but give you the flexibility of your schedule to where you're pretty much a full-time. And some companies do full-time hours, at 25 or 30, and technically you're full-time, and you get full-time benefits, and they can count that as full-time while you still have the flexibility of your schedule. If you may have done that already, but yeah, from what I've seen, I definitely haven't seen part-time. Everybody usually wants this person in the saddle and 2 of them. So be quite interesting to see outside of a consultant.
Right. Or they want to outsource.
Yeah.
Or temporary. Full-time,
Yeah,
temporary with flexibility.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for benefits are not an issue for me. I'm just really looking to, be in a position where I can, where I don't have to really strain myself, and can make a contribution and earn some reasonable money out of it.
Speaking of sales, have you proposed that in your search? Hey, I'm a trainer. I can train. I can turn your numbers. Here's what I've done in the past, but I only want to do it part-time. Do you have a need? Can you use me? Can you hire me part-time to do this part-time? I'll work with your team Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, or XYZ, and pitch it that way. Have you pitched yourself that way to share?
Well, I have.
Okay.
I have, and that's how I got the Accenture job, and that's how I got the job with the SBA. So I mean, I've done that.
Yeah.
In the past. I've worked with smaller businesses, and I've come on kind of like an outsourced sales manager, where I don't have quota responsibility, but my responsibility is to, improve the performance of the team, get the numbers up. And that's fun. That's a lot of fun. And you're dealing with a lot of people that really aren't very good. I hate to say it, but they haven't had the training. There's a lot of room for improvement in what they do. So, you can get a real sense of, accomplishment from seeing somebody really perform better and happier with their job. So anyway, yeah, so that's me.
Patrick, I'm going to put my email in the chat to you. Reach out to me, send me your resume. There's a couple of people in my network, one of whom is the chief operating officer for a fractional, senior level group that does fractional CFOs, fractional this and fractional that. And the other person in my network is someone who is deeply involved with sales, recruits specifically for sales managers and stuff. He might just be someone that might be helpful, but send me your resume so if I can make a connection, I will. Okay.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Pleasure to be here. I appreciate your help.
Yep.
It's good to have you, Patrick. All right, so let's go with Harriet and then Jennifer. Share with us what's going on, how we can help.
Am I off mute? Okay. So I'm Harriet Matsushima. I have been a process improvement person probably since I got out of college, like a long time ago. So I started my career with General Electric, and that's where they kind of ingrained in me my DNA that that you make things better than how you found them, and so that's kind of been my central theme throughout my entire career. And then I went on to do ERP implementation, so I really understand business from an end-to-end perspective. So, whether it's source to pay, lead to cash, so I really understand deeply how those end-to-end processes work and how they interact with each other. But what I'm finding right now is these transformation type positions, they're kind of few and far between. And I think with the economy being so tough, I think this is an area that I think is more of in some companies, it's a nice to have, because my last company, my team was eliminated. So I don't know if I need to make a shift and maybe focus into maybe something that's, maybe more core as opposed to what some people might think is kind of a nice to have. But because there are very few opportunities that at least I'm finding. And so I'm just trying to figure out what, approach I really should take.
Have you figured out what that core thing could be? Like, in other words, the thing that people really are hiring for? Have you gotten a handle on that?
Yeah. So I honestly, no. Because I think if I went back into the ERP space, enterprise resource planning space, I think it's become a lot more technical, and and it's been a while since I've done that. So I don't think that would be an area that I think I could do, but I think because it's been so long, I don't know if companies would think that I would be, I'm probably stale at this point. So yeah, so I think I really kind of need to do some soul searching to figure out what are those core skills that I have and like where that can actually apply.
Here's what, because I'm not an expert in your area, but I am going to offer you a concept, just a framework of how you might think about it, right? So here it is. And this is for everybody on this call who is at all thinking about any kind of shift, right? So it's what I call, it's going to sound funny, but it'll make sense in a second. It's what I call ing versus ing versus ing versus er. So ing is the skill, is the profession. Here's what I mean by that. So this is a very simple way of explaining it. So writing versus writer, event planner. Okay, I got the concept. The reason why I bring that up is because in the course of our professions, some of us have we have a thing, like you're a project manager, right? You're a chief operating officer, that kind of thing, with a whole bunch of ing skills underneath that. Okay. When you're trying to do some sort of shift, it's a really good idea to inventory all of those ings, list them out, particularly the ones where you are highly engaged, where you're highly skilled and highly motivated to do the work, not the work you tolerate, but the work you love. take a look at those skills. Let's say there's 7 of them. Take a really hard look at the skills and see if there's any that kind of waft off the page to you in 2 levels. Number one, things that extra energize you, extra motivate you. But in your particular case, the skills that are actually really usable and marketable right now. Okay.
Mhm.
What you then do is you take that skill and then you say, okay, I want to become an in that thing.
Okay.
You then look at your resume and say, where can you highlight those ing skills? How can you make a big deal? Not an overly big deal. And I'm not saying, exaggerate, but where you highlight the ing skills in your resume so that your resume gets more branded in that realm. You couple that with your LinkedIn profile and all of a sudden you have a new brand. Let me give you an example. So years ago, so I mentioned I'm a career coach. I'm a recruiter as well, but this is my career coaching hat right now. And I write resumes and I write LinkedIn profiles and all that. And so years ago, I was working with an attorney and he decided that he wanted to become a recovering attorney, if you know what I mean. Yeah. And so he decided he wanted to become a writer. Like, how do you turn an attorney into a writer, right? Well, we did it. We looked at his resume and pulled out all of his writing skills. Attorneys, right? Mark, attorneys do a lot of writing. So he pulled all of his writing skills out, wrote a LinkedIn summary that talked about his passion for writing, the kind of writing he likes to do. Anyway, he got a job as a journalist with a legal trade publication. Remember how I was talking about lane and community before? So he kept the community, which in his case was legal, but he shifted the lane. And the employer was fine with that because they're like, oh, great, he gets legal, but we'll give him a chance. And now today he's an English teacher. He shifted, right? Made the complete shift. And it is possible to do that, but it has to be done with thought and intention. And that's what one of the things that I do with people is kind of help zero in, right? And say, figure it out, kind of pull it all apart. But if you needed to do that on your own, that's fine. Just list out the ings, do the
Mhm.
filter. What do I love to do? What's marketable? Make sure the whole resume is branded from top to bottom, from the headline of your top to labeling your accomplishment stories. Let me give you one more example of that. Interestingly, Brian, this is an association example. So again, I was coaching somebody years ago and she was in the association sector in the government relations lobbying sort of space. And she decided she wanted to go into ops. Again, how do you turn a GR person into an ops person? Well, we did it because we looked at her accomplishment stories and pulled out, couldn't change her title, obviously, right? But looked at all of her stories and said, where did she exhibit ops-oriented skills? Budget work, event work, financial, whatever it was, right? And we took real stories and we labeled them, all the accomplishment stories in bold with those key skills. Relabeled her resume. She networked with that, repositioned herself. She landed actually with working with like a head of like a foundation kind of thing in an ops, right? Kind of a role. But that again took intentionality. So you take your accomplishment stories, put those new competency labels there, rebrand and network. Again, intentional networking. But again, first and foremost, Harry, you obviously have to figure out in your market
Yeah.
what skills are marketable. And of course, the ones that you want to highlight. But once you do work on that, then that's a way to reframe it.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. So, okay.
Harriet,
Yeah.
based on what you said, I'll just give you another option or another possible path maybe for you. Given that, you in your former career, it was all, GE making things better, solving problems, improving processes and that type of thing. Have you explored at all any of the big consulting firms? Because I mean, the big consulting firms are hired by the General Electrics and the Microsofts that come in and, there's a problem, they're hiring them, they want it solved. And I mean, I think your skills might fit there, but.
I think they would. I guess I guess I'm struggling with the level because I'm at a certain level and a certain salary. And I think going into consulting without having the management consulting background, I think going after the level, I think is probably, I mean, would I go back down to like a consultant level to?
They may not even hire you for that anyway, right? Because they want to keep you at your same level anyway. So you're right.
Okay.
May or may not. What sector did you come from? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Telecommunication, high tech. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. That's so interesting. I just started working with somebody yesterday, who's been in telecom his entire career. Can you go ahead and did you grab my email address? Did you?
No, I didn't.
Okay, let me put that back in the chat since it won't be in the thread. I can give you an intro. His name is Carlos. If you just email me and just say you'd like an introduction to Carlos.
Okay,
Yeah, he is 100%. He's a telecomer.
okay.
And Harriet, I understand your concern about, what level I would go in at. But I think it's still maybe worth exploring because given your skills and background,
Mhm.
it might be a more, there might be a level within one of those consulting firms that's a level that you're okay with. I mean, you might not have the same title, and titles are just words to describe things, and
Yeah.
they're different in every organization. So, but I know early in my career, I spent 25 years with Dunkin' Donuts, and we hired, most of at least 2 or 3 of the big, well-known nationally consulting firms.
Yeah.
And there were people that came in and here's your problem and, did all kinds of analysis and, made recommendations. It sounds like those are the types of things that you're probably good at.
Yeah, and those are the types of initiatives that I've always been part of. And usually I've been on the client side that I've worked with those consultants. And so so it's definitely in that vein. So, but speaking of consultants, I was thinking about also doing it being independent and trying to find my own consulting gigs. So I did have a question here about Boomer Works, because I think that's another thing. And how do I get involved?
Sure. So for those of you who are interested, what Harriet just mentioned, so I have another, in addition to this group, Higher Moment Mastermind, I have another community service project called Boomer Works, boomerworks.org. I'll put that in the chat. Sorry. And we meet once a month. We have educational programs at our website. If you go to the meetup tab in the upper left-hand corner, I'll just pull it up real fast so you can all see it. So what our mission is to inspire and empower 50+ professionals to re-career in self-employment. So we have a couple different ways you can connect with us. So under the meetup tab, we have upcoming events. Actually, we have to update this. It happens to be that I'm leading the next session. I don't usually offer myself as the presenter, but I happen to be, and it's going to be about conceptualizing your business. Interestingly, it's going to be the third Thursday of this month. So it's going to be on the 16th. And you can see down here all of our upcoming events. And actually, I've booked us out all actually even through the summer. I just haven't listed it here. And then if you want to sign up, a couple of things. So on our training center, we have all of these different topics, and we record almost every single presentation. So for example, marketing your business, which is we talk a lot about this, and you can see all the videos from the presenters that we have. This is all free. They're about 1.5 hour long presentations. Okay, you can avail yourself of that. If you want to join our community, just go ahead and fill out a little form. We promise we'll not spam you. It's just like a couple times a month. We'll just let you know what the upcoming event is, and that's it. Okay, so you're welcome to join there. Now, if you could benefit, because this is all free, it's all DIY, if you could benefit from more formal support, I actually happen to have that as one of my practice areas. So I'm not just a career coach, I'm also a small business coach. And I do help people with business conceptualization. I'm a copywriter, and so I will write your website, help you with your elevator pitch. I do sales coaching, but I do it on the mostly for B2B, for people going into consulting. Right, so I'm not going to help you start an Etsy, right? But if you're doing B2B consulting, that is something that I work in case that's helpful for you. Okay.
Interesting too, Harriet, hearing you mention pivoting and shifting. I was going to back up what Shira had said initially, just about getting your thinking going, about looking at your resume and pulling out your value that you can present, or if you had determined already, what community or what area of passion you wanted to go in, perfect place to start the pivot. And then Vern started talking about consulting, which was in my brain as well that, yep, there's another use for you. So as a recruiter, I'm just listening. I'm like, yep, for everybody who wants to pivot, what Shira said first is where I typically start too is, yep, what are you good at? Where's your value? What benefit? What comes easy to you, natural to you, passionate for you, and all those things? Because that's value that a recruiter, like a lot of times we don't care about the shift because we know the value. We're interested in pulling that out, like she said. Then Vern mentioned consulting, and I was like, of course, you've got years of expertise, which got me thinking about what Shira does. And then boom, you mentioned gigging, and then she goes right into BoomerWorks, which is why she started that too, because that is one of the well, she does it. That's what BoomerWorks is making that pivot from like, you know what, I got all these expertises that I've done in that world for years. Now let me move them out. So I'm just seconding everything that I just watched you guys do over the last 5 minutes. But yeah, keeping your mind open to a lot of people who have been in a role or in a field for years and years. Like you just said, they see themselves on one side of the table. But if you flip and put yourself on the other side, that's when you're able to go, you know what? It might not just be just some low-level consultant. There's high-level consulting that people need as well. So keep your brain and options open. And yeah, BoomerWorks is perfect for that too.
Okay, sounds good. All right, thanks.
Okay, so we are in wrap-up mode here. Glad everybody was able to share. You're certainly welcome to join us every Friday, any Friday that you like. And we typically meet all Fridays. In fact, even like Friday after Thanksgiving, like we're just, if it's a Friday and we can do it, we will do it. So with that, we'll go ahead and formally sign off. And for anybody who would like, after we formally conclude here, I do offer a short prayer call if anybody would like to stay on for that. Otherwise, we'll look forward to seeing everybody next week. All right.
Take care, everybody.
Have a blessed
Bye, everyone.